Bell, welcome aboard. Good to have you. Murphy, welcome aboard. Good to have you. We are back. If you guys are coming in, if you could please tap away at that phone screen. I do appreciate you being here on this beautiful Monday evening. I am back from being bananaed, so I need all of your help. If you could please tap away at that phone screen as you are coming in. Tap like your life depends on it, because I'm back. I've been gone for about a week. I know. Some of you have missed me. Some of you are somewhat happy that I was gone. Some of you are probably really upset that I am back. No matter what camp you exist in, no matter who you are, no matter what color your skin is, no matter what you believe in, no matter what your position is on the abortion issue, I am glad you are here this evening, and I am asking you to please tap away at that phone screen. We are going to get into the abortion discussions as we have done in the past. At one point, we were doing great. We had the perfect streak going. Every day, every evening, day after day, we would get on this app, and we would have open dialogue about one of the most important social issues of our time. That issue, of course, being whether or not it is justified to unalive your own child. And then all of a sudden, just like that, we were offline. We were taken down for a week. Now, I'm not going to talk exactly to what got us taken down. What I'm going to do is focus on the future and to get right into it. So as you're coming in, if you could please tap away that phone screen, we are going to do what we have done in the past, which is to have guests up and to talk about this very important political and social issue. If you disagree, if you think that abortion is justified, justice being rendering to each what they are owed, giving to one what they are due, then request to join and let's talk about it. You should not speak on women's rights. Horrifying that you think it is your choice. Narcissist. I believe that man or woman can act, thank you for the rose, can act incorrectly. They can act in a way that will harm themselves, will harm others, and will harm the community as a whole. And so I could never say that this is a woman's right because it doesn't check any box that tells me that actualizing this is ultimately always good for women. It is the case that when you unalive your child, it's not good for you, it's not good for the child, and it's not good for the community as a whole. And so you assume that it's a woman's right simply because you probably have a prejudice against unborn children. I don't make that assumption because ultimately it is not a woman's right because it's wrong to do, it's wrong to pursue. I see no reason for it to be a right. Now, on the point of being a narcissist, I don't think I'm a narcissist, but you're welcome to have your opinion. Get a vasectomy then. That is my choice for you. Why would I get a vasectomy? Do you want me to get a vasectomy so that I don't reproduce? Why would I frustrate that natural end of sex? Explain that to me. Don't just make claims. Don't just think that things should be a certain way without proper reasoning, without sitting down and taking the time to contemplate why we are doing what we are doing. Actually think through what you believe about something. If you're going to make the claim that men should be getting vasectomies, why? Why should men be forced to get vasectomies? Do you want more scumbag men in our society that are going to sleep around and are not going to have any responsibility for the children that they create? Is that what you would like? I don't think so. Anyway, if you are pro-choice, request to join. Let's have the conversation as to whether or not abortion is justified. I take the position that abortion is not justified, that you should not treat your child this way. It'd be wrong to treat your child this way, and there is a way that you ought to act, which is going to be in accord with being a good person, a good mother, ultimately is going to lead to your own well-being by doing what you should do. We will get right into the conversations and start with the first guest that we have in the box. But as you're coming in, if you could please tap away at that phone screen, request to join if you are pro-choice and you want to try to justify abortion. The very first question I will ask you, like I have asked the guests in the past, is how do you justify abortion? Okay, let's get into it. YR thinks I missed that comment. Hi, how are you? Stan.
Hello. Just making sure. Hello. Can you hear me? Can you hear me
Yes,
well?
sir. How do
This
you
is this
justify
probably the best.
abortion?
Well, I have two justifications. I'm gonna pick the one that's probably gonna get us farther into this conversation. The fact that it's inside of me, right? This is something an organism that is growing inside me that can dictate the actions, that can dictate the health of my body, right? In this situation, well, I'm a man, I can't get pregnant, but let's say I'm a woman, just for sake of conversation here. It's inside of me, right? This can affect my body, and I believe that I should have a decision to determine what affects my body and what will overall just the what can and cannot be inside my body, if that makes sense.
So you believe that we should be able to dictate what can and cannot happen within our bodies?
Yes, I believe that
And
you
you are
have the right.
aware that some things will happen within our bodies that are out of our control. There are eternal, internal changes that occur every single day within our bodies that we have no ability to dictate to happen or to not happen.
Oh yeah, I determined that. But changes that uh, that can or cannot happen. I'm not talking about like things that happen like the cell process. There's no way that you can actually stop that. You Decisions that can be changed. Okay, how do I explain this? Things that okay, yeah, I guess like the thing is like you should be able to dictate what is
Well,
inside
it's
of
really
your body.
important here because you're coming at me with this idea that you should be able to control what changes and what doesn't change within your body. But ultimately, when a woman gets pregnant, things are going to change, yes, but things change all the time. I think that we could very easily make the argument that some change is good and some changes are not good. And so it's not a matter of just the fact that things change and therefore you get to just reconcile them. I'm sure we could come to some agreement that some changes to a woman's body should not be reconciled. There'd be no reason for a woman to, let's say, chop off her leg just because she's growing. That would be pretty irrational and wrong for her to do to herself. And so just the
No,
idea that things are changing doesn't justify reconciling those changes.
yes, but the thing with it, right, is that you have to understand changes that you may or may not want. The thing with this, right, is that there is a lot of change that comes with a baby, right? Such as, internal changes when it comes to menstrual cycles, sickness, and things like that. I feel like another thing is you have to be prepared for these kinds of things before you can truly, understand if you want this thing in your.
You know, to some extent, I agree with that. I think to understand the gravity of having a child and to fully recognize the gift that is that human being that has now entered into your life, you do need some formation and preparation to get to that stage of life. But ultimately, that doesn't really speak to whether or not it would be justified for you to stop the growth and the flourishing of this child just because your body is changing. Again, I think that you have to attempt to tell me what is good or bad about the child being in the womb. What about this change in particular? What is intelligible about the change, we could say, tells us that this is a bad thing to happen to a mother?
What was that? I couldn't hear the question. My
Can you
fault.
explain to me specifically, physically, what is bad about a child being in his mother's womb?
Well, a lot of things. I mean, things such as sickness could happen. Might have.
You're breaking up. Is it me or is it you? Am I connected to the internet? I think it's you, because I'm connected to my internet.
I think it's
I
me.
think I'm good, but you're kind of breaking up.
Yeah.
You going through a
Yeah.
tunnel? What's going on?
Uh,
Stan.
Not really. I was in a different portion. I was just in a
Okay,
different
Stan,
portion of
I
my room,
cannot
sorry.
really hear you at all. So I am just going to move on. Stan, it was a great conversation while it lasted. When I see your name next time, we can talk and we'll continue it. Okay, man? Let's move on to somebody else. Please only request to join if you're able to justify abortion. That is the first question I'm going to ask you. Might be the second question. Hi, how are you?
Hey, I'm good.
How old are you?
19.
Okay. Yes, you have to be over 18. How do you justify abortion?
Okay, so,
And she's gone. The guest is already offline. Let's move on to coconut water. Please only request to join if you are able to justify abortion. I will be asking you, how do you justify it? So please be prepared. Hi, how are you? Hello? Enjoy your popcorn, watch a good film, but I am just looking for individuals who are able to justify the act of abortion. As you are coming in, we are back. We were taken down for a week, but we have returned. So if you could please tap away at that phone screen. If you could also follow my backup account at James Weigel 2. It is linked in my TikTok bio. I am at, I think, 600 followers over there. I need to get to 1,000. I had once, at one point in time, I said 500 was the point I needed to hit to be able to go live on that account. I think it's actually 1,000. So if you could please follow that account, I would appreciate your support in that way. Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm cool. I just
Cool, man. How do you justify abortion?
I don't mean to be disrespectful, but there are three very the main valid reasons why people get abortions. They were raped.
You have to say grape on TikTok, please.
All right, my fault. They were,
No worries.
things happened against their will, and
Sure.
I feel like that's the best reason. Most, nobody can even tell you anything. No one can try to convince you you're immoral for that. But then there's also, women can have their life threatened by a pregnancy. These things can go wrong. And when they go wrong, it's better to kind of it's going to sound kind of dehumanizing, but if your plants aren't growing right, it's best you snip them and pluck them and, try a new crop if you're a farmer or anything. But sometimes people can be the same way. You can try to have a baby, and you can have, what is it called when it attaches to the fallopian tube, and that can be very dangerous. But then
Let's
there's
be very clear about what we're saying here, Cody, because you just said that like a farmer who snips their crops when they don't go right. What exactly does that mean in reference to human development? Are you telling me that we need to have access to treatment for ectopic pregnancies? Because if that is to the extent at which snipping your young crops, what that means in terms of human development, then I'm with you. But if you mean that we need to eliminate unique individual human organisms because they are not going to be fully healthy or they're not going to have all the features that human beings tend to possess, I disagree with you. So I would love some clarification as to exactly what you mean by that statement.
No, I do mean a fetus that is threatening the life of the mother. And I don't mean, blanket birth defects. That's not what I mean.
Okay.
But
you are aware that when it comes to the abortion issue, the vast majority of abortions do not deal with situations where the fetus has extreme abnormalities.
Okay. Yeah.
The vast majority of abortions are dealing with healthy child, healthy woman, healthy pregnancy. In those cases, do you find abortion justified?
I do. Even if there's no case of anything, simply plain and put, if a woman is in a position that she cannot give this child a good life, whether it be economic situations or even age, if she was just way too young, I don't think
so.
That's
a woman
immoral
can
either.
unalive her child because she doesn't have enough money, because she predicts she won't have enough money in the future to take care of the kid. That's your principle?
Yeah, because first of all, I don't think you keep saying the child, the kid. It's not those things until it is born.
Well, that's not true.
I mean,
So that's a really important conversation that let's have now. But before we get into it, let's make sure that we first understand what you are saying. if I am right about the nature of this being, that they are a child, that they are a unique individual human organism, you think that in the vast majority of abortions, a good enough reason to unalive that child is not having enough money. If that is the case, and my metaphysics, my understanding of what is reality in this situation is correct, you will be for unaliving kids because you don't have enough money. If you are right, then we have to have a different conversation, because then my understanding of what's happening is incorrect. And we're not talking about a child, and really then you can unalive the whatever it is whenever you want. So let's have the conversation as to whether or not it is a child in the womb. Let me ask you this first. How have you determined that this unique individual human organism is not a child?
It is unique, it is individualized, but it is not complete. It's a recipe that's still in the process.
How is it not complete?
Because if I'm baking a cake and I mix up all the ingredients and then I put it in the oven and it's still in the oven and something goes wrong at that point, it's not really a cake yet. It's going to be a cake, but it's not yet. And a fetus will be a child, but it isn't yet. That's just the way I feel about it.
Biologically, what is this unique individual human organism missing? What makes a complete human organism?
The
what?
fact that it is conjoined to the mother via the umbilical cord. It's not ready to be
the fact that
yet.
the human organism is connected to another being, that makes the human organism not complete? That's what you believe?
Because it is completely 100% dependent on that organism for its nourishment and for all of its development.
Two ideas there. Number one, very quick question. If somebody was in a hospital and they were fully dependent on machinery to survive today, and they were connected to that machinery, would they still be a unique individual human organism? Or would they lose their uniqueness, their individual nature, because they are connected to that machine?
Yeah, they're not an independent organism anymore because they cannot perform their rudimentary functions. You can laugh if you want, but I had to pull the plug on my own grandma.
So you said independent organism. I wasn't taking issue with the idea that the child is dependent. Let's be very clear about the language that I am using. I'm talking about unique individual human organism. To be an individual does not necessarily mean that you are not dependent. I would make the argument that we're all dependent on each other to lesser or greater degrees. So dependency in itself does not take away your individual status, just so you are aware. But let's talk about the second point. Go ahead.
Say that we're not independent because we're social creatures and we rely on each other. So we're not independent the same way a fetus is not independent. That is I
didn't make that statement.
That is not.
That's not what I said, though.
All right.
That's just not what I said. I said to lesser or greater degrees. I would say that Sorry, go ahead.
You said that none of us are independent creatures because we all rely on each other.
No, I don't believe that we're independent in the sense that we live in a vacuum and we don't depend on other people every single day. I wake up and from sunrise to sundown, I interact with people all day. I depend on people for my food, for my drink. I depend on people for, the engineers that designed my car. I depend on the architects that designed this condo.
Okay.
Dependency is part of the human experience. But you made another claim a few moments ago that the child is fully dependent on the mother to survive. And that really attacks this idea that we're talking about a unique individual human organism. Let me ask you, how dependent is a day-old on their mother? Is it the same level of dependency?
As before they were born? No, it is not the same level of dependency because now this child can breathe on their own. This child can actually process.
How are you measuring dependency there?
How am I measuring dependency? In the scientific way of if
what does that mean?
If you separate this fetus from this mother prematurely, barring expensive medical procedures that we have designed to replicate the human body, right? Because that's the only way. If a premature fetus is born, they have to be put into a NICU and simulate a woman's body.
But you would agree that when you evoke the term dependency, it's common practice to speak of dependency to some degree. So, for example, I may help my sister out, who is an adult, and I may say that she was dependent on me in this way. And that's a vastly different nature of dependency than a mom who has a 2-day-old at home. And so I'm asking you, how do you measure the dependency? You can speak to, well, there's this physical reality and that physical reality, but what are the underlying principles that tell you how dependent the being is on the sustainer? How are you going about that? Or are you just saying that you just feel that this is a great deal of dependency? You just have that
there's no feeling involved
suspicion.
with it. This is scientific analysis. Okay? That if you... this is scientific analysis.
What's
You can look at
scientific analysis?
Every animal on this planet, man. We all mammals, we all got fetuses. And if you take that fetus out prematurely, that fetus, it can't breathe on its own.
Let me ask you this. Maybe this will help shine light on what I'm saying. Well, maybe this will help shine light on what I'm saying. What if we talked with a mother who carried her baby to full term, and she now has her baby outside of the womb, and she tells you that the first 2 weeks of that baby's life were way or much more difficult for her as a mom? That child was much more dependent on her.
Because
it took much more time. Boy, hold on. Let me just tell you what is a common experience by a lot of mothers. It takes a lot of time. It took a lot of energy that she had to dedicate her whole life to this being in a way that she really didn't reach in her pregnancy. It was much harder for her to be a mom outside the womb than inside the womb. Would you be willing to say for that mother that was a greater deal of dependency?
No, because now you're talking about like the mental exhaustion and of all of it, and that is a different kind of physical dependency for life.
Okay, I'm telling you the experience of the person actually taking care of
and I'm
a
not trying to
child.
belittle
Plenty of
that
mothers
experience.
might tell you this, and you would not tell them that child is more dependent on them outside of the womb, even
I would
though
tell every
they are the
mother-
ones doing all the work,
Any
even though
mother
they're the
that told
ones
me
that have to
I
love
would
that
tell
child
them
every
that
single
that
day.
baby, any mother that told me that, I would tell them that their baby was infinitely more dependent on them when they were a fetus. And
Okay, and so let me ask you this question
it's the consciousness
Sure.
of it. Once the fetus
consciousness
is born,
of it. What does that have to do with this conversation?
because when you are a parent and you put the work into raising your child, you feel the dependency weighing down on you, on your mental state, because you're thinking about it all the time. But when you're gestating an infant, there's like it makes you tired.
You're
and you
telling
can feel
me
that, your body is
mothers
working.
who are pregnant are not thinking about their children all the time, and that when you give birth to your beautiful baby boy, they now all of a sudden become a part of your world? I don't think that any mothers buy that to be true.
I am telling you that mothers do not make the conscious effort when they are gestating a fetus. It's not like they eat something and then they say, okay, now I have to feed the baby, and they have to put thought into their biological processes of breaking that food down and delivering it to the fetus via the umbilical cord.
Sure, that's descriptively different than
That
a
is
mother who might
subconscious.
eat.
That is
well,
that is
that's. Go ahead, Cody. Finish what you're saying. Go ahead.
It's all natural when you do it, when your body is doing it. You don't think about it. So
Okay.
yeah, you feel like they're more dependent once they're born. But in all honesty, like a newborn baby, you can leave them alone for like an hour or two, come back in the room, and they'll be fine. You can't do that with a fetus.
Okay, Cody, you got the swan, so I wanted to let you finish what you were saying, but we do have to move on. It is a swan to kick. I do appreciate the gifts, as usual. Trump HQ, thank you for the gift as well. We did get him gone. Very interesting conversation we just had, but really think about what Cody is saying. He's saying that, listen here, mothers, your baby is more dependent on you in the womb because it's natural. First of all, he's appealing to nature, which, I get a lot of flack for as being a Catholic. But ultimately, think about what mothers have to do with their children outside the womb. I would argue that you have to be much more active in your role as sustaining that life that is fully dependent on you outside the womb than inside the womb. When the baby's inside the womb, you have to, let's say, eat more. And yes, there is a natural process that your body takes that will sustain that child's life. But outside of the womb, you not only have to take care of yourself, you have to, as he was alluding to, take care of the child as well. You have to put time and effort into making sure that that child is sustained in the proper way because it is no longer natural. Now, if we're talking about dependency being this measurable thing, something that you want to base your whole argument on, then you have to have some approach to how you measure that dependency, how you are deciding which being is more dependent than some other being. And if you're really going to make the argument that the child inside the womb is just more dependent on you because it's a part of a natural process, I don't really find that to be a very good argument because that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Because, again, using his language, scientific analysis, let's think about that classically. Analysis of the knowledge that we have, let's say. We can talk to a mother and we can find that a mother deems it the child more dependent on her when the child is outside the womb versus inside the womb. So are you going to tell me that her experiences don't matter? Are you going to tell me that if we took a study that found that most mothers would agree with this, that their children are much more dependent on them outside the womb than inside the womb, are you going to tell me that that study doesn't matter, that their voices don't matter? I would think that that is turning your back on knowledge, something that the other side commonly critiques us for, even though we don't actually do it. But it seems they do it more often than we do. Anyway, those are my thoughts on that conversation. Let's move on to the next individual and hear what they have to say. If you disagree, if you think that abortion is justified, request to join. I am back. I was taken down for a week, but to avoid any more future vacations, let's say, follow me on my backup account at JamesWeigel2. It is linked in my TikTok bio. Okay, let's move on to Lily Grace and hear what she has to say. Much love, James. Thank you so much. Oh, you guys missed the lives. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hello.
Sierra, thank you so much for the nerd emojis. I appreciate that. Hi, how are you?
I'm good, and you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How old are you?
I'm 21, or I'm going to turn 21 in like a few months.
Okay, how do you justify abortion?
So this is the live, just like justifying it.
Yes.
I'm basically not here to justify it. I'm here to like ask you, have you ever experienced it like with a partner of yours, or have you ever like...
I have not experienced abortion, and by the grace of God, I will never experience abortion. My goal as a very young man is to eradicate abortion from the public space. I do use the word eradicate because fundamentally, the ideology that has produced the idea that we should be unaliving children in the womb has to go. It just has to go. Now, I don't mean that we harm any individual. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is that intellectually, we have to stop lying to ourselves. We have to stop treating kids like commodities. We have to respect what is ultimately true and the dignity of the children and protect and preserve those lives. It should not be a conservative versus liberal issue. This should be the default position that we all hold, that we do whatever we can to make sure that those children have an opportunity. I kicked you because you started with saying that you're not going to justify abortion. And so that's why I'm doing this. I'm looking for the opposition to justify abortion. But I did answer your question, so there we go. Also, as you guys are coming in, if you could please tap away that phone screen, I do appreciate you being here. We were on a week hiatus due to being taken down by TikTok, but we are back, so cross our fingers that everything goes well. But I think tapping away at that phone screen really does help the live. I also appreciate the gifts. It is great to be back, and we are going to move on to the next individual. Only request to join if you are able to justify abortion. Let's move on to M. Nicole. M. Nicole, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. How do you justify abortion?
So the first thing I wanted to say about the dependency, I'm not really sure what the point of that was, but in answer to your question of, how do you say a fetus is more dependent than a baby after it's been born? It's just basic science, maternal fetal medicine, that a fetus relies on the mother's body for basic life processes. So Maslow's hierarchy, the things that science has
Define
determined.
dependency.
What's that?
Define dependency.
Yeah, no, that's what I was about to say. So Maslow's hierarchy, the very basic things that humans need, that's provided by the placenta. So the baby is dependent on your basic life processes, such as
And the baby is dependent on you outside the womb. Fundamentally, what is the
Not
difference in
for-
principle?
well, exactly what I just said. For the basic life processes, a baby on the outside can breathe on its own. A fetus on the inside can't oxygenate and perfuse its organs without the placenta. It depends on that placental perfusion.
But you're making a claim that the baby inside the womb is more dependent, and you're just giving me descriptors. Can you tell me in principle how the baby is more dependent inside the womb and then outside the womb? If it were the case, just hypothetically, that we can determine through some sort of mathematical calculation that it actually took more energy from mothers to care for their children outside the womb, certainly you would not be saying that those mothers are not being dependent on to some greater extent. If the studies existed that demonstrated that, even though you love science, you love knowledge, it seems that if you were legitimate about that thirst for truth, you would have to say that those studies have something to them. So for you to just say that, just so you know, James, the baby requires the placenta, and the placenta is in the womb, and it requires mother's body. I get all that. What I was saying is that it is possible for the mother to be more greatly dependent on outside of the womb, that she has to actually put more energy into taking care of her child.
So you're confusing energy with physical dependence. The fetus cannot survive.
I'm not confusing that. I'm not doing that. You didn't hear what I said.
Every time I try to talk, you
can finish. I'm just making sure you know as you continue on. That's not what I did. You didn't understand a word I said. But go ahead.
That's certainly what you would. Okay, so then how do you define dependence? And then I will tell you why the fetus is more dependent. What is your definition of dependence?
Well, I asked you to define dependence, and you never defined it.
I did.
You're the one who brought it up, and you can't define it.
I did define it, but we seem to have different definitions. So I'm telling you, my definition is when the fetus fully relies on the mother for basic life processes that are required to sustain their heartbeat and perfuse their brain and grow their organs. So that would be my definition.
You got the
of
swan.
dependence.
Hold on. That's your definition of dependence. You got the swan. I just want to get one question before you leave. If that is dependence, obviously the baby is dependent in the womb. But if the mother is the sole caregiver, how is that baby not matching that precise definition of dependence?
Because they can perform their basic life processes without the mother. They can breathe.
Yes, they can breathe without the mother. Great. Who cares? Obviously, a baby outside the womb is fully dependent on their mother as well. That's an absurd argument to say that that's a different level, or that's different in terms of just dependency in general. I was expecting you to say, yeah, that baby is also dependent, but to the degree it is different. And then I would have asked, well, how do you determine the level of dependency there? And that's what you're missing. You're just saying, well, James, it's physical, therefore it's more. What? I don't even know what that means. I mean, you're just pointing to the fact that a baby exists in the womb. Okay, what if I told you that, which is a fact, that babies need the right environment to survive? That if you lived in Alaska and it was the middle of winter, that baby needed to be within a warm house, a warm cabin to survive. And to remove that cabin from that baby's grasp would allow that baby to die. Would that not also then point to the fact that this baby has a large degree of dependency on you? But you got the swan, so I had to move on. Why would you level of dependency justify a rights violation? I don't know exactly. Why would the level of dependency justify a rights violation? I'm not necessarily saying it is, but what I think is interesting is just the fact that everybody assumes that just because the baby is in the womb, that means that the baby is more dependent on you than when the baby is outside the womb. I spoke to a mom today who is homeschooling her child. How much energy and work not only goes into caring for your child, feeding your child, making sure that they're mentally okay, but then also intellectually forming them from a young age. Are you going to tell me that that whole process can be simplified down to a state of minimal dependency? I think there's some really interesting questions you can ask in the realm of dependency in itself to try to understand, what is really expected of a mom during a pregnancy. I'll never say that pregnancy is easy. I'll never say that the baby is not fully dependent on you. The baby is fully dependent on you. And yes, it is a natural process. And if you stop that natural process, your baby will die. I agree. But for you to just assume that this is the worst form of dependency to ever exist and that this is nothing like what we expect mothers to do, I think it's just wrong to do. Because ultimately, we expect mothers to fulfill this relationship in every other aspect of life, and nobody takes issue with that. And so that's really what this whole conversation, this whole live has been about thus far. Ultimately, as Divine was asking and what he's probably thinking with that question, it doesn't really matter in terms of my argument. It's still unjustified to unalive your child. But again, I think it's an interesting area to get into. Okay, let's move on to the next individual and hear what they have to say. I appreciate y'all being here. If you could, please tap away that phone screen as you are coming in. We are back after a week. It's good to be back and to have these conversations. Adopt pro-lifers. Yes, adopt. Make sure that all children have the homes they deserve. This individual did not load up, so we will move on to the next person. Oh, wait, she's back in the guest box. Let's see if we can get her on this time around. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I am good. How do you justify abortion?
So I guess my question for you is, why do you believe that life begins at conception?
Because life begins at conception.
But what makes you believe that?
Because that's what's true. Because your unique individual human organism comes into existence at the point of conception.
But so scientifically, a lot of scientists disagree on this. Half and half disagree on this. You believe in that because you've stated...
It's not half and half.
It is.
Can you cite the source that says that half of the scientists in some contingency don't believe that life begins at conception?
I have it opened right now.
And what's the source?
It is from NIH. It's a peer-reviewed article. But
half of which type of scientists think that life does not begin at conception?
There's different biological scientists. But at the end of the day, what I'm more trying to say is that...
Hold on. You're saying that I should believe your position on this because there is some article out there that suggests that half of the scientists in the scientific community don't believe that life begins at conception. I would like to know exactly who are these baboons and what exactly are they promoting? Because that is just incorrect.
Well, because the thing is that...
What percentage exactly don't believe life begins at conception? What's their argument? And what type of scientists are we talking about?
So you believe life begins at conception because you're Catholic.
So you're not going to engage with that?
Well, I can't pull it up right now because I'm on this live. But I had it up.
I'm not even asking you to pull it up. You are saying that life doesn't begin at conception because of some paper that exists. I would hope that without even looking at the paper, you're able to give us the reasoning that the paper presented.
Because there's people that believe different things, like Judaism. People believe that life begins at first breath.
I'm not talking about Jews right now. I'm talking about the paper that you brought up. So you don't know anything about the paper. You just want to name drop it.
About the paper because they can't definitively say that, because there's different arguments about when life begins.
Yes, there are different arguments for all sorts of things. There were different arguments during the time of slavery in this country as to how we should proceed, how we should end slavery.
Why are you
Just because different arguments exist does not mean that there isn't a right answer. Actually, I would argue that the fact that we have disagreements points to the fact that there is truth in all of these situations that we're all seeking.
Okay. So my next question for you is, I do have a question before.
Let's move on to the next individual. She got the swan, and at the end of the day, she's talking about a study, but she's unable to explain the study. She just wants to make sure all of you know that 50% of scientists, whatever that means, and whoever qualifies as a scientist, maybe that's people who study gender studies, maybe they're scientists too, who knows, that they believe that life doesn't begin at conception. Oh, okay. Who are these scientists? Oh, I don't know. Okay. What exactly did they say in the paper? Oh, I don't know. What's the title of the paper? Oh, I don't know. That's what she would like you to believe. Okay. Ask yourself some simple questions. When did you come into existence? Is it true that you were once a human zygote? And that's pretty much all you need to conclude that life must begin at conception. So don't fall for the absolute baloney that individuals like that will try to sell to you without any substance. Let's move on to the next individual and hear what they have to say. Thank you all for the gifts. I do appreciate it. Stephanie, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing, James?
I'm great as well. How do you justify abortion?
I don't justify abortion. What I justify is the right to an abortion, given the
mean?
many complexities of being pregnant. I am pro-choice, but I also know that there's more than enough ways out there not to accidentally get pregnant.
Okay,
But I do have that young lady study up. Would you like me to read you the abstract of what she was talking about?
Well, I don't want to take a ton of time to read a whole
Well, no,
abstract.
it's an
I would love for you to
abstract.
just.
An
Well, I'll take
abstract-
your word.
an
For,
abstract
I promise
isn't
you.
a
I promise you. I will take your word for what the study has to say. But I wouldn't mind hearing exactly what has been said. So just tell me the major points
I
and
only
exactly.
need to read like the first couple sentences, Bunny.
Okay,
an
go ahead.
abstract is only about maybe
I'm aware
50,
of what an abstract is,
50
but go ahead.
lines. Okay. It says peer-reviewed journals in the biological and life sciences literature have published articles that represent the biological view that a human life begins at fertilization, which is your life at conception. Okay. That's called the fertilization view. As those statements are typically offered without explanation or citation, the fertilization view seems to be contested by editors, reviewers, and authors who contribute to scientific journals. However, Americans are split on whether the fertilization view is philosophical or religious. 45% think it's one of those.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Please let me finish.
Wait, hold on. I'm going to let you finish. Hold on, but that's really important. Let's make sure we tackle that before you move on.
Okay.
That sentence right there, did I hear you correctly? Did you say 45% of Americans are confused on this?
No, No, that's not what I said. 45,
what did you say? Can you read it again?
Yes. You didn't let me finish the sentence. If you'd let me finish the sentence, you'd get it.
Well, just read that part again, because I misheard you then. My apologies. Go ahead.
Yeah, you did.
I did. I'm sorry.
However, Americans are split on whether the fertilization view is philosophical or belief or a religious belief. That's the 45%. Or a biological or scientific belief. That's 46%. And only 38% of Americans view.
Wait, I didn't mishear you. I didn't mishear you. Hold on.
Starting point.
Hold on. I didn't mishear you. It is talking about Americans, and they're not even split on the science. They're split as to whether or not it is philosophical or scientific.
No. They are split. 45% think it's philosophical or religious.
But the previous guest, was saying that 45% of the scientists were split on this fact.
The 98% is farther down in the abstract. I was just trying to get you up to base on all of it. I have.
She got the swan. Let's move on. She's not even listening to what I'm saying. She said that 45% of Americans were split as to whether or not it is scientific or philosophical. I said, first of all, you're talking about Americans. You have to remember that she was talking about scientists. She said that the scientific community at large was split on this issue. But the article that you pulled up, thank you for doing that she was talking about Americans. And it wasn't that they're split on the science. They're split as to what area of study this should belong in. They're split as to the philosophical or scientific backing to their beliefs. Okay. That's not what she said before. Let's move on to the next individual and hear what they have to say. As you all are coming in, if you could please tap away at that phone screen, I do appreciate you being here. She did get the swan, so I am going to move on to the next person. But, well, there's no but. It's good to be back. I was gone for a week, and I am happy to be back fighting for the kids. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. How do you justify abortion?
Your God justifies it.
My God does not justify abortion. That's impossible.
Isn't he a just God?
My God is extraordinary. Can you give me your argument for how abortion is unjustified?
How it's unjustified?
Yes.
Isn't this about justifying abortion?
How it is justified. My apologies. Go ahead.
So the reason I justify it is about the woman's choice, but your God justifies it because he lets it happen.
How is abortion justified because a woman has a choice to do something?
What do you mean? It's justified for her.
Do you believe that every choice that you have is justified?
No.
And so then just relying on the fact that you have a choice doesn't justify any choice. There has to be something more that demonstrates justice, yes?
Yes? I'm just a little bit...
Okay, so since you agree with that, what is actually justifying this action? It can't just be the fact that you have a choice.
Sorry, what did you say? You cut out.
You understand that just having a choice doesn't justify you making any choice you'd like. If that is the case, and you can agree with that, can you tell me what actually justifies this particular choice?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
You're cutting out really bad.
Can everybody hear me in the chat?
I think it's my
me?
connection. You can kick me.
Okay, we will move on. I don't think that it's her connection. We will take her word for it, give her the benefit of the doubt, but she did not have red bars, and usually I can tell when the connection is bad. But I think ultimately, whether her connection is horrid or not, her argument is dead on arrival. It is erroneous. It is corrupted by bad reasoning. And so maybe if it was her connection, she has been saved from having to actually do the intellectual work necessary for her to come to the side of what is true and good. But I would encourage her to actually think about that, because she's just saying that, oh, well, you have a choice to do something and therefore it's justified. Think about all the evil that you could reason is just under that worldview. You could say, well, a man who grapes a woman is just in doing so because he has a decision to grape a woman. Does that make any sense to you? No, of course not. There's a great violation of the woman. This is wrong to do. It's not good for the man. It's disgusting. It's not beautiful. There's nothing good about it. We can go on and on how that's not justified. But notice how I can engage in the issue beyond just the idea that you have a choice to do something. Because just having the choice to do something doesn't mean that the choice that you partake in is justified. Just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do something. Y'all know the spiel. As you are coming in, if you could please tap away at that phone screen. It is good to be back after a week. We are going to move on to the next guest. If you want to support me, one of the best ways to do so is by joining our Discord community at discord.gg/James. I'm getting caught up on my words because it has been a week, and I haven't said that in 7 days. So, yeah, discord.gg/James. I'd be happy to have y'all in there. Mars, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I am good. How do you justify abortion?
So I want to start by saying that I would never get an abortion, but I am pro-choice, right? And there's a couple different ways that you could go towards this, right? And I'll kind of leave it up to you really, but you could go the law, right? You could go the religious route. Which one would you like me to go towards?
I am having a normative discussion. I'm appealing to natural justice. I don't need the law to tell you what is just or unjust.
Okay, so To me, I'm a Christian woman, right? And I believe in God's free will, right? He gives us free will, right? So, like, we are not God. We cannot judge people. We cannot, make choices for them. We cannot take away that choice. That's Jesus and God's, ability to do that. So for
Should we
you,
stop women from unaliving their day olds?
hey, God gave us free will, right? We're supposed to follow Jesus's
God gives us free will. Should we
his
stop
actions, right?
mothers from
So
unaliving day olds?
for us to tell people how to live their life is just un-Jesus-like. He would never do that. He would say, hey, if you love me, you'll
Honey,
follow
get a clip
me.
of that.
But it's true.
I'm not calling you honey. I'm calling
But it's
a
true.
wonderful pro-lifer
If he
that might be
says,
watching, honey.
hey, follow me and follow my choices, and if you don't, hey, you have consequences, right? But like, who are you to tell somebody to do that when they have free will from God? God gave them
You
that free will.
said that Jesus didn't
God,
tell people
Jesus,
how
I'm
to
Catholic.
live.
They're all the same to me. Like the Holy Spirit, it's all the same to me. I'm Catholic, okay? So when I say
I'm
Jesus,
Catholic
it
as
means
well.
God means Jesus.
am
Tomato to me.
familiar that they share the same substance. What I'm asking you, or what I'm telling you rather, is that Jesus did tell people how to live. You said that it's un-Jesus. Wait, hold on. You said that it's un-Jesus-like to tell people how to live. What I would tell you is that the greatest commandment
We're
is
followers.
to love.
We're not tellers. We're followers.
If I may, if I may, you are vastly confused on the Catholic tradition. If I may, God is love. To love is the will, the good of the other. It is the case that to love somebody oftentimes is to help form and to help guide them to make the correct decisions. And to allow people to perpetuate this great evil of abortion is cruel.
Right.
I
And I would
recently
never
saw
do
a
that.
clip.
I would never.
Sorry?
I would never do that. And I would never.
Well, you're doing it right now. You're saying that
No, I'm
abortion
not.
is justified.
I'm saying that who am I to judge? Who am I to tell people
I'm
what
not
to
asking
do?
you to judge women. We're having a discussion
But
as
I
to
feel
whether or
like
not
you
abortion is
are
justified.
judging them by
I'm not. How have I
condemning their
judged women?
decisions.
I'm trying to help women because it's not good for women to unalive their children.
You could suggest, but you can't condemn. And I feel like the way you
How
talk
am I
to
condemning
people,
women?
because you're saying it's unjust, right? Like that's your opinion, but like
Do you think it's
can't force
unjust to
someone.
unalive a day old?
Oh wait, what did you just say?
Do you think it's unjust to unalive a day old?
I mean, there's like obviously, yeah, that's against my religion. I would never
Would
do
it be
that.
wrong? Would it be wrong for me to speak out against unaliving day olds?
I'm not saying what you're doing is wrong by any means, but I'm just saying if Jesus were here, he would not be like, hey, I'm going to sit here and condemn people for making that choice. He's going to say, hey, do your thing. You want to go do that? That's fine. But over here's love.
Jesus literally established a church that the gates of hell
In the
will
Bible,
not.
there's literally
Yes, there's Holy
a verse
Scripture,
that you
Holy
could
Tradition, and we do
interpret
have the
of
Magisterium. Hold on. Jesus was not afraid to teach people. Jesus was not afraid to tell people
Right, but he
to
won't
do
condemn
this and to
them.
stay away from. What?
He won't condemn them. He won't say that what you're doing
You
is.
don't believe that some people are going to go to hell and you are Catholic?
I do. However, I'm a follower of Jesus. I am not going to be here saying you are wrong and that I'm not going to still give you open arms.
Well, you're vastly
regardless
confused on
of
the
your
Catholic
decision
faith. Can you
make.
tell me how, in principle, abortion is justified?
All I'm saying is that there are lots and lots and lots of people in this world, and just because they don't believe in our religion doesn't mean that they're unjust.
I'm not justifying, or I'm not saying that abortion is unjustified from Catholic dogma. I'm not quoting the catechism. I'm not reading scripture to you. I'm speaking in, frankly, terms that were founded by pagans, people outside of the Christian faith. And so when you say that you think that we can't say abortion is unjustifiable because we can't force religion on people, that's not what I'm doing. I'm not forcing my Catholic faith on anybody. I don't really mention my Catholic faith when I engage with seculars.
So, like, even if we go like the non-religious route, like let's go
which
the
is what I've been
American-
doing from the beginning. You brought up religion because you
In your
wanted
last
to
couple
make some
arguments,
silly
I've heard
point
it,
that Jesus
right?
doesn't teach people. Sorry?
But, the last couple points you brought it up, so that's why when I started this conversation, I said,
No,
which
I
route do you
didn't
want to
bring it
go?
up. That's not true. That's just not true. I
Well,
wasn't
then
talking
my
about religion
memories-
this whole live.
Okay, well then.
Do you want to make a bet?
I could have sworn you said that you were
I'll make a bet with you.
It doesn't matter.
Wait, hold on. Before we move on, because that's just a lie. I wasn't bringing it up.
I
You brought
asked
it up.
you when we
But I will
started
make
this
a bet. Hold
conversation
on.
which
I will
route
make
you
a bet
wanted
with
to go.
you. I will make a bet with you. $100. Whoever is correct. That being that I didn't
Well, I
bring
don't
up
bet,
religion,
but you
and
continue.
you did bring it up.
I asked you which one you
If
wanted
I'm
to
correct
do.
about this, you have to donate $100
I
to
refuse.
your
I won't.
local.
I don't bet. Right.
Well,
But
let me
here's
just give
thing.
the offer. Maybe you might want to actually hear what I'm saying. You have to donate $100 to your local pregnancy resource center. Make it a pro-life one. Let's do that bet because I didn't bring up religion. You were saying that I did. I didn't.
Well, regardless what you want to believe, I asked you before I even started this
Okay.
conversation, right? I said, do you want to do religious or law, right? And you
Well, you
said
lied.
religious.
To
What?
be honest with you, you lied. You just said that I've been talking about religion. I have not. I have not brought that up. But please tell me how abortion is justified.
Okay, so like, do you want to go the law route then?
No, I want to hear a reasonable case for
Okay,
how
so-
abortion is justified.
Okay. So I was confused because you guys were talking about religious or philosophical, right? The last conversation. So that's why I thought you were bringing up religion. So I apologize. So if you wanted to, so when they were talking about how Americans look at abortion as from a philosophical or religious view, that's like, when does the conception of life happen, right? And I believe that that is, depending on when you believe life happens, is philosophical or religious. So it does come from the religious point, right? And if you were to
No, it does
carry
not.
that in, okay, again, there are
In the Middle
religions out there
Ages,
that think
there was
that,
a belief. There was a belief in theology, which is the science that all science are subordinate to because it deals with first causes of things. As Aristotle would say, the pagan philosopher, to understand the first cause of something is to fully understand something, which is why God, the divine being, is able to fully understand everything because he's the first cause.
okay.
In the middle,
So-
if I may explain, just listen to what I'm saying. Actually, try to comprehend what I'm telling you because
I am.
it
I
will
know.
help move the
I've heard this
conversation forward.
argument,
Hold on,
so I
just,
know what
just
you're
hold
gonna
on.
say.
Hold on. You don't know what I'm going to say. That's crazy because you're obviously confused about faith and science. So in the Middle Ages, there was a belief that there was this period of ensoulment that from the point of conception or whenever a baby comes into existence, that the baby was not fully ensouled and that you didn't really fully exist until a certain period because for you to exist, you are a embodied person. You have both soul and body. And without that combination, you don't exist. So there was this process of ensoulment. Now, the reason they got that wrong, and the reason why we can still use the great writings of the pagans and of Aquinas, the theologian, is the fact that they didn't have the biological information that we have today. And so we are able to say today that life begins at conception, not because of religion, not because of Catholicism, but because of science, because of biology. So for you to say that that's your religious belief, you're so confused about religion.
So
You're
to
just
me-
so beyond confused.
Right, but there are people out there that can argue that it doesn't begin at conception because that life cannot survive on its own. Right? There are people that believe that. They think that life doesn't exist until that fetus or baby breathes oxygen and air into its lung. There's people that believe that, right? So like,
And they're wrong
in America,
because biology
we're in
tells us
America.
otherwise.
This is America. We are supposed to have freedom of religion, freedom of philosophical views, freedom of like different beliefs or different science beliefs. We're supposed to be able to do whatever the heck we want, right?
No,
America.
you're not able to do whatever the hell you want,
Right,
and
because
that's
we
not
have
a
a moral
foundational.
conscience,
That's not
right?
an American
We have a-
value to do whatever you want.
So we have a moral belief, like we don't murder, we don't steal, right? We have a moral belief. So now in question
Simple
is
question.
this
What
moral belief
science
on-
tells
Wait,
us?
Let me finish.
What
I let you
science?
finish. I let you finish. Let me finish, right? So in America, when we're creating these laws, right? Because that's at the end of the day what it's based off of, right? We are trying to create like a moral understanding, right? And in question, it's abortion. Okay, so if we say that the right or the life started at conception, then that means that no pregnant woman can go to jail because that baby didn't have due process. We're saying that child support is supposed to start as soon as that pregnant person gets.
Okay, you got the swan, so we are going to move on. But ultimately, that is not a good answer because you're totally just shifting away from the metaphysics, the discussion as to what is reality here. What is this being? I was going to ask you, what science tells us when human life begins? The answer would be biology. Now, let me tell you, is it respectable? Is it the case that when we're dealing with a hard science, such as biology, that you can just have prejudices against a fact and then that prejudice should be taken seriously? Or is it the case that we can very clearly demonstrate to you that life begins at conception? I think you'll find it's the latter, that it has been demonstrated, it has been proven that life begins at conception. And if you don't believe that, you disagree with that hard scientific fact. And so it's not a question of religion. And frankly, it's intellectually dishonest and not genuine at all to just embark on the discussion without contemplating this very significant scientific fact. Now, she's talking about the law and morality and all of these different questions. To make the law, you have to understand the underlying principles. The laws are going to come from the principles of good, just, righteous. This discussion has to be had. So it is not just the case that you can do whatever you want. It's not the case that everything is just subjective and that we just roll some dice and figure out why the law should be the way it is. There are principles at work that we are modeling the human law after. And that would have been another discussion we would have had, but she did get the swan. So we are going to move on to a next individual. We are back after a week. It is good to be back. If you could follow my backup account at JamesWeigel2, it is linked in my TikTok bio. That will enable me to be able to go live if this account gets taken down in the future. I did miss you all this last week. I missed doing the discussions. As I've said repeatedly, I'm very happy and excited to be back. Hopefully we can get our streak going again. If you want to support me even further, consider joining my Discord community at discord.gg/James, discord.gg/James. The link is also in my TikTok bio, Linktree. I also have an article out that I published to my X account on abortion not being good for mothers. I give a pretty good principle argument for that. Expect one of those articles once a week. I have been reached out to by a few individuals that have asked me to create some sort of newsletter so that you will be notified when I publish something new. And so maybe I'll create a Substack and do it that way so that you don't have to follow me on X. But all that considered, we'll have a few more conversations. I appreciate you all being here. Where are your creepy glasses? I have my contacts in. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it. Go debate him then. Yes, please come up. It is good to have you all here. Life begins at conception, but the spirit of that person starts in the pre-mortal existence. I don't know exactly what you mean. The spirit of that person. That person doesn't exist until soul and body is connected. I don't know what a person is outside of soul and body. When body is no longer ensouled, that is really, all things considered, not a body. It's a corpse. Okay. Let's move on to the next individual and hear what they have to say. As you all are coming in, please tap away at that phone screen. I do appreciate you being here. Let's talk to Kimberly. How long have you been live? About an hour. A little more than an hour. Hi, Kimberly. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. How do you justify abortion?
I justify it because it's a women's choice.
And how
does our viable choice in HIPAA Protection Act?
And so you have a choice to do the action. Is the action itself justified?
It is.
And how is the action justified?
If I do not want something in my body that I cannot relieve, then why? Why would you, as a man, make me have it?
Because I can come to understand that you going to a Planned Parenthood and having your child ripped limb from limb at 12 weeks in gestation is disgusting to do, and it's unjust to do. It's not good. It's not good for your child, and it's not good for you, and it's not good for society.
At 12 weeks,
No,
it's
in
still not even
abortions,
viable.
in a great percentage of
Number
abortions,
two.
children are ripped limb from limb.
Number two, why won't men get
Are you familiar with a
mandatory
dilation and curettage, a DNC abortion?
Are you going to get a mandatory vasectomy?
No, I'm not going to get a vasectomy because I plan to have a beautiful wife one day, and I plan to get her pregnant and have an incredible family. So I will not be getting a vasectomy because I understand the purpose of sex. Can you tell me? Excuse me. Wait, hold on. We're not going to talk about my vasectomies and sex life. We're going to talk about how you justify abortion. How does just happen?
Can I speak?
Well, I'm doubting you're able to speak at a high level, but go ahead.
I'm asking you, why wouldn't men have a vasectomy until they...
Okay, let's not mute her. Everyone with the mutes. Yes, let her ask her question about me getting a vasectomy. I don't know why she's so interested in that. What I want to stop is women unaliving their children. Go ahead, Kimberly. You have to unmute. A mod muted you. It was not me. Go ahead.
Oh, God damn you.
Thank you guys for the swans. I appreciate it. She started with the classic, a woman has a choice to do something, therefore it is justified. But if it is the case that something is justified insofar as you have a choice to do it, then you are going to justify things that are clearly not justified. You will observe things that are incredibly evil and wrong to do, that are not good for the people you're doing them to, and not good for yourself, and not good for society as a whole. And you will have to say that that is just because a choice exists. That doesn't make any sense, and that's not justification. Thank you guys for the swans. We will move on to the next individual and hear what they have to say. And that is, in essence, why we saw her pivot to this discussion of vasectomies. I don't get the pro-choicers' obsession with giving men vasectomies. Are they really that anti-children that they're not only for unaliving kids, but they want men to be able to have sex with women and not produce any children at all? Just think about what you're saying. How is that good? What is proper about that? What is worth pursuing about that? You want to make it easier for men to sleep around? Why? Why? That sounds like something a really bad man would support. And for whatever reason, a lot of these pro-choicers support it. Why? Very strange. Maybe you should be influenced by first wave feminism instead of whatever wave we are on currently that's telling you to enforce bad behaviors of men. G, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. How do you justify abortion?
I just had a question about sorry, I've never been live before. I just had a question about what you were just saying about how sorry, I'm kind of nervous because there's like 300 people in here.
Don't worry about it. It's just you and I.
Okay, I just had a question about what you were saying, like about vasectomies and stuff like that. And if you don't mind just pausing for like a quick second about justifying abortion. So what is your reason against, so women obviously have the right to have birth control, but what is your reason against men getting vasectomies as a form of birth control?
I think that sex is reasonable insofar as procreation is possible. To disrupt that natural end of sex would be to frustrate the act and would be irrational to do. So I don't think it's good to take procreation out of sex. I think that sex is fully realized and you are led to your own flourishing and fulfillment, both you and your wife, you and your husband, when you engage in sex, being open to life and in the confines of marriage. That is, we could say, the perfect form, not to be too platonic, but that is the perfect form of sex. Now, when you speak of something being a right, I need to know exactly what you mean, because you just said that, well, of course, birth control is a right. Well, I'm not for banning birth control. I think that hormonal birth control, from what I've seen and from what I've begun to discover about it, is really bad for women, and that's starting to come out now, and I think that that will be something that a lot of people are going to have to reckon with in the future. But when you say that birth control is just a right, what exactly do you mean by that?
Well, I just mean that, like, we have access to birth control and, like, it's not being taken away. Like, we have condoms, we have non-hormonal and hormonal birth control. So, like, we have the right to it. I mean, pretty much anybody regardless of if you're 18 or not. Like, you can go into the doctor's office and get birth control. Like, you know, that
But
right
when you
hasn't
say
been...
it's right, in the
What-
sense that, does that mean that when you actualize the ability to get birth control, you are acting in a right way?
No. I mean, like, you have the choice to go and get it. Like, you have the freedom to go and get it. Like, you have the right
But why
to go
should
and
it be
get
a choice to get it? And again, I'm not for banning birth control, but I'm just curious. You assume it is a right. Why should it be a right? Why should it be a choice to get birth control?
Well, I just think that, like, unfortunately in the world, like, women do get raped. Men do get raped as well, but, like,
Grape,
women
please,
do
on
get
TikTok.
raped. And, like,
You have to say
unfortunately...
grape on TikTok.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Well, they do get taken advantage of or raped. And so, unfortunately, like, you know, it happens to men as well. And so they do have the right or the opportunity to get a condom. Women do have the right or the opportunity to get birth control. So I would just say, you know, because of that reason.
Yeah, you're just saying that the opportunity exists, but just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do something. Just because something exists potentially doesn't mean that you should actualize it. It is the case that a man can abuse a woman, but certainly we both agree that men should not abuse women. So can you tell me how maybe the act of birth control in itself is a justified thing to utilize?
Yeah, I would say it's a justified thing to utilize just because it does happen. I mean, like, you know, there's nothing either of, like, they do get raped. Women do get raped and so do men. So I would say, like,
but that statement doesn't follow in pretty much anything that I'm going to assume you believe. If I said that grape is justified just because it happens,
No.
of course
Grape
that doesn't
is not
justify grape.
justified, but unfortunately it does happen. So I feel like our right to birth control has to be justified.
Because grape
unfortunately, those things
happens,
happen.
your right to birth control has to be justified? And so are you suggesting that every woman should be on birth control because she could be raped? And that's why you have a right to birth control?
I mean, I'm not saying, I mean, again, it's everybody's choice whether or not they get on it, but I'm just like, as a precautionary, I'm on it just in case, you know, because personally, I wouldn't want to follow through with a pregnancy if that happened to me. Like, I would want to limit my odds of having an abortion.
Okay, and so what was your original question?
My original question was asking why you're kind of against vasectomies for men. Because
And
I
I answered
understand
that,
the
okay.
reason you're saying, like,
Sure.
you know... Okay, sorry, I'm trying to remember our conversation.
Yeah,
But
in
anyways, you
essence,
did
you
answer
should
my
engage
question.
in... Well, just to re-answer it and to remind you of what I said. When you engage in sex, you should be open to life. To intentionally frustrate that natural end is wrong to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do agree with that. But I was just saying, okay, yeah, I think I'm just backtracking and I got nervous and I kind of forgot what our conversation was, but I appreciate you for...
We're having a great convo. Do you have any other questions?
No, but I appreciate you I thank you for answering my question.
Well, thank you for coming up. Those were great questions. Best guess we've had so far. She wanted the honest answer, and we still disagree on stuff, obviously, but I appreciate her coming up. Yeah, I liked her too, Sam. Okay, I think that'll be it for today, because it's the first live back, and I want to give y'all a reason to come see the live again. And if I just go live all night, I'll give you all the secret sauce, and you'll have no reason to come watch me again. So we'll get back into the swing of things. We'll keep building that momentum. We'll keep fighting for the children. Of course, it is not good to kill your kids. It is not good for women to have the ability to unalive their children. It's not good for society as a whole. And ultimately, we want to uphold the virtue of justice. We want to give to each what they are owed. We want people themselves to treat themselves with human dignity. You acting in this way is so repugnant to who you are as a rational creature, as a woman. You are called, you are self-directed by your nature to do so much more. There's so much for you to enjoy and to find fulfillment in. But what's not going to lead you there, what's going to slow you down at getting to that path, what's going to severely harm that self-directiveness is unaliving your own kid. I recently saw on Twitter a clip from the Michael Knowles show of a woman who sent in his mailbag who was talking about her abortion story. How she really didn't want an abortion, And she got an abortion because she was pressured by doctors. And she told the doctors, and I encourage all of you to go look this up. I'll send it in my Discord server for you all to see. She told the doctors that she wanted to be awake for the abortion. And I will let you all watch it for yourself. I encourage pro-choicer, pro-lifer, everybody to watch this clip. She was horrified by what she experienced. The brutal unaliving of her own child. And after the abortion, they bring, the women into a room and they have Kleenexes and because they know it's going to be tragic. And all of these girls are just destroyed because of what they have just done. Because of what has happened. And so stories like that are important to listen to. Because I don't want any woman to have to experience that. And the fact that so many people on the left today, so many pro-choicers today, are no longer just saying safe, legal, and rare. They are encouraging women to get abortions. They are saying that this is a fundamental human right to be able to unalive your child. That doing this is the most feminine and great thing for you to do is so evil and so wrong. There is so many better things for you to do. You don't have to do this evil procedure that unalives your own kid. That will, whether you like to hear this or not, will live with you the rest of your life. And so fundamental to my position is the fact that this is harmful to women as well. I don't buy the idea that doing such an unjust and wrong thing is actually good for you. And so I will put that clip in my Discord server from the Michael Knowles show, which whenever I get an opportunity to listen to, I'm very happy to hear. Very much recommend him. Okay, so that is going to be it for today. If you all want to support me, one of the best ways to do so is by joining my Discord server at discord.gg/James, discord.gg/James. The link is also in my link tree, which is in my TikTok bio. Also, if you could please follow me at JamesWeigel2. That is linked in my bio as well. That is my backup account. We need to get that to 1,000 followers so I'm able to go live on that account. Other than that, that is going to be it for me today. I will upload this live stream to my podcast RSS so that you can listen to it wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Google, if you're in the Stone Ages. Not SoundCloud, though. Anyway, thank you all for being here. We'll answer a few questions, and I will be back tomorrow. I'm so happy to be back. I missed you all. W, thank you, Tiff. I appreciate it. Good night, everyone. Yep, you too, Jackson. You sound like Ben Shapiro. I get that a lot. Honey, what's going on? The OG. Michelle, thank you for the W's. I appreciate it. Repent and seek Jesus. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate that. W. Riz Shapiro sound. Ben Shapiro is a very successful man. I don't mind being compared to him, even if it's a comparison that is fueled out of hatred. Did you enjoy your week off? I did. It was good to rest and to recenter my mind on the issue in maybe a way that I haven't been thinking about it. Many different ways I haven't been thinking about it, so I enjoyed it. Adoption, 100%. If you guys have any questions or any comments, I'm looking at things right now. James, are you against birth control? I think that birth control is not good to use, and I wouldn't suggest anybody to use it. I'm certainly against any form of birth control that can kill a kid, so that's immediately off the table. But from a political standpoint, I'm not in favor of restricting individuals' abilities to use things like condoms or those types of birth controls, or even maybe hormonal birth controls, depending on how severe they are to women. If it's the case that hormonal birth controls is going to make all of these women infertile, well, I might have a different political opinion because I don't think that that's good for women. I think that can fundamentally destroy a woman's life. If she wants to have kids, she takes birth control because she currently doesn't want to have kids in this exact moment, and then she ends up not being able to have kids in the future. That's not good for her at all. And so you can see that politically, I have a nuanced position, but philosophically, birth control is not good. Sex should be done, always open to the possibility of life. You should never intentionally frustrate that act. What do you think about kids? I'm not even going to answer that because TikTok will probably take me down if I gave my honest answer. So maybe follow me on Twitter and you can hear more from me on that issue. I am going to be doing a live with Logic and Liberty this Wednesday. Hopefully this Wednesday. I reached out to her last week to set it up. I was supposed to schedule the space, but I kind of got busy being on vacation. But if not this Wednesday, we'll do it next Wednesday. But we will be doing a Twitter space learning from her. She's a very knowledgeable individual, and I'm excited to hear what she has to say about that issue. So if you're interested on my opinion on that, well, then follow me on Twitter. Can my mom share something with you tomorrow? Yeah, we can schedule something to have your mom share. What I want to do is a live where we just hear stories from individuals. And so it may not be tomorrow, but send me a DM and I will make sure that I platform you in some way. But when I do these debate lives, I do just try to talk to opposition, but I'm totally open to hearing stories from pro-lifers. I think that that might even be better in terms of the impact it can have for the movement. We need to hear the actual women who have struggled with this abortion issue and have who can demonstrate how detrimental it is for their own lives. Yeah, no problem. Okay, that'll be it for today. I appreciate y'all being here. I will see you tomorrow. Until next time, may God bless you and have a peaceful night.